The heroine of the story I'm going to tell you today is Sarah Sands, a 32-year-old mother of three, whose life took an unexpected turn in 2014. Previously married, Sarah first had a son named Bradley, followed by twins Alfie and Reese a year later. Shortly after the twins' birth, Sarah's husband left her, and she struggled with the challenges of being a single mother for a long time. Living in her parents' house and patiently waiting for her turn for social housing, she finally received a long-awaited apartment in Silvertown, East London. This event marked the beginning of a new chapter for Sarah and her children, full of hope and expectations. The move to Silvertown proved fortunate. Sarah found work, and the children easily integrated into their new school. Life seemed to be improving. Sarah quickly befriended her neighbors, including Police Ted, who lived by himself. He was a notable figure in the estate, often sitting on a bench near the newspaper stands, which gave him the opportunity to interact with local residents. Michael was known in the area as a friendly and responsive old man. His good nature and openness attracted many neighbors. Sarah also quickly took a liking to her elderly neighbor. Regularly, on her way home from work, she would exchange a few words with Michael as she passed by his shop. These short but warm conversations became a pleasant part of her daily routine. Quite often, Sarah even cooked and brought food to the lonely old man. Considering everything mentioned above, the subsequent events of this story may seem shocking. On the evening of November 28, 2014, at 8:28 p.m., Sarah Sands entered the elevator of the apartment building where 77-year-old Michael Police Ted lived. She went up to the 5th floor, where Michael's apartment was located. 22 minutes later, at 8:50 p.m., Sarah reappeared in the elevator, coming down from Michael's floor. She was clutching a knife in her hand. She left the building, leaving behind a terrible secret. Michael Police Ted was dead, stabbed by his own neighbor. What could have driven a mother of three to commit such a horrifying act? Why did a kind, lonely old man become the victim of this crime? To understand Sarah's motives, we need to go back a bit and examine the preceding events. Michael owned a small shop selling newspapers and magazines. From time to time, he hired local boys to help him with sorting, arranging, and delivering the press for a small fee. Sarah's eldest son, 12-year-old Bradley, was looking for an opportunity to earn some money on weekends. There weren't many options for a boy his age, and working for Michael seemed like an ideal solution. Upon learning that Michael needed an assistant, Sarah offered this job to her son. Bradley was excited about the opportunity to earn some money by helping Michael on weekends in his shop. Everything was going well. Bradley worked with interest, and sometimes even brought his younger brothers Alfie and Reese along. But after a few weeks, the boy refused to continue working for Michael, without explaining why. Sarah, though puzzled by this decision, decided not to push the matter. However, as it later turned out, there was indeed a reason explaining the boy's refusal to take the job. In November 2014, one of the twins, Alfie, finally broke down. He told his mother about how after work, Police Ted had invited him to his home. Trusting Police Ted, Alfie agreed without hesitation. But what happened next turned into a real nightmare for the young boy. Once alone in Police Ted's apartment, the seemingly kind-hearted old man suddenly transformed into a cruel, aggressive monster. Police Ted raped the boy in his apartment. Sarah entered Bradley's room and found him crying. The boy told his mother, "I should have told you about this sooner." As it turned out, Police Ted had raped all three boys. Alfie had been too scared and ashamed to tell his mother earlier. In that moment, Sarah realized that Police Ted had deliberately befriended her to gain access to her children. From the very beginning, they had been his target. Sarah spent the entire night with her sons, listening to their accounts of how Police Ted had abused them. A sense of guilt overwhelmed her, as her main responsibility had been to protect her children from something like this. She felt she had failed them. Sarah contacted the police. She and her sons told the investigators what had happened. Pleasted was immediately arrested. It was revealed that Michael Pleasted was not the perpetrator's real name. He was previously known as Robin Molt, and he had 24 convictions for child molestation spanning 3 decades. He had served prison sentences for his crimes, but no one in the area, including the local council where he lived, knew about his past. After changing his name to Michael Pleasted, he moved to the Silvertown area, where he met Sarah and her children. No one could have imagined what a monster was hiding behind the facade of a kind and good-natured old man. After his arrest, Michael didn't admit his guilt and claimed that the boys had made everything up. He was released on bail and, surprisingly, allowed to return to his apartment located near Sarah's home. Sarah's children were horrified at the mere thought of having to live near Michael and encounter him on the street. Sarah was furious. She begged the authorities to arrest Michael, but they told her it would be easier if she moved away with her children. Not feeling safe, Sarah returned to her parents' home. Even more difficult was the fact that Michael didn't admit his guilt, and now Sarah's children would have to publicly testify in court about what Michael had done to them. Sarah suffered unbearably from the injustice of the criminal being free and from the guilt of not being able to protect her children. All this led to the tragic events of November 28, 2014, when Sarah, after drinking wine, left her parents' house and went to her apartment where Michael lived. In the living room, she gazed at her children's photograph and broke down in tears. Rising from her seat, she made her way to the kitchen, selected a knife, and proceeded to Michael's residence. Upon knocking, he opened the door, startled to find Sarah standing there. She demanded he admit to his crimes to spare her children from having to testify about their trauma in court. Michael dismissed her accusations, calling her children liars and maintaining his innocence. As Sarah studied his face, she no longer recognized the person she once considered a friend. His demeanor showed no signs of guilt. In fact, he wore a slight grin. In that instant, Sarah revealed the knife she had brought. Michael, alarmed, moved aggressively toward her. In response, Sarah stabbed Michael in the chest repeatedly, striking him 8 times. After leaving him bleeding on his floor, she departed the scene. Approximately 60 minutes later, Sarah walked into the police station of her own accord. She acknowledged killing Michael Pleasted and was taken into custody. The legal proceedings against Sarah commenced in September 2015. During the trial, Sarah maintained that the killing was not premeditated, describing it as a moment when she lost all rational control, an act driven by raw emotion. The court initially handed down 3.5 years prison sentence, which sparked public controversy over its perceived leniency. Following an appeal, her sentence was extended to 7 years, though she ended up serving only 3 years before early release. Throughout her imprisonment, her children remained in her parents' care, returning to live with her upon her release. In subsequent media interviews, Sarah stated, "I'm not proud that I killed him, but I'm proud that no other child will suffer from him. I acted as a mother should, who had to protect her children." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you didn't, feel free to give it a dislike. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video.